my bill on time for 3 consecutive months, and I'm now enjoying the free upgrade.
To keep the upgrade, just continue using your Platinum Loyalty Card to pay your cable bills. Pay your bill in-store or online at www.thecable.net. Sign up for the Cable Platinum Loyalty Card today and get more. Terms and conditions apply.
At Nature's Discount, the herbal store on 4th Street, we provide herbal supplements for all your needs. Blood sugar, blood pressure, prostate, liver, heart, kidney, and more. Oils, pure herbal teas, wholesome vitamins, healthy foods, alkaline water, bodybuilding supplements, weight loss and sexual health supplements, even hair and body care products. We support the natural health of the whole family. Get healthy naturally. Call us at 662-5447. Like us on Facebook. Nature's Discount Nutrition Center. Your get healthy, feel wealthy people. This message brought to you by ZIZ and the Fire Department of St. Kitts and Nevis.
I am Woman Fire Officer Louise Clark from the St. Kitts Nevis Fire and Rescue Services with your safety tip for today. Keep items that can catch on fire at least 3 feet away from anything that gets hot, such as space heaters. Smoking materials can cause residential fire death. If you smoke, take precautions. Smoke outside, choose fire-safe cigarettes, never smoke in bed, when drowsy or medicated, or if anyone in the home is using oxygen.
This message was brought to you by ZIZ and the St. Kitts Nevis Fire Department.
All right, welcome back. It's now time for our conversation, or fire talk conversation, with our fire officer, senior fire substation officer. Got it correct? Fire substation officer. That's right, Mr. Williams. And we have, let's see if I remember his position now.
Let me help you out, GQ. Let me help you out.
Operations.
Close. Control Operation Protection Manager, Colin Brown.
From
SKelec.
From SKelec in the studio. This is a continuation of our program from last week. It's part 2 of the program. We are sharing with you, the experience and how the department collaborate. The fire department and SKelec collaborate here in St. Kitts and Nevis as it relates, in St. Kitts per se, as it relates to rescue and disasters. So over to you, gentlemen, where you want to continue.
Yes, good morning, GQ. Good morning, listening audience. Good morning, Mr. Colin. Thank you again. Ramel. Thank you again for being here with us this morning as we continue our conversation on fire and more or less electricity. Mm-hmm. Last week, we would have spoken about the relationship between SKelec and fire department. We would have touched on how, a certain type of fires affect SKelec, and by extension, how it affects you and in the long run. And so we will basically continue with some more conversations. Now, fire department, we more or less, I said this morning, I was on, fortunately, GQ, I was on another show this morning. Mm-hmm. So it went from one to the next.
Oh, that's good.
And one of the things I mentioned, the fire department, we are more or less like an assisting agency. We assist everybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody call fire department for everything. Everything. You take a cat out the trees for you. Take a cow out the hole is for you. Mm-hmm. Wash down the school is for you. Mm-hmm. Assist health department for you. Mm-hmm. Everything is for you. We also assist EMS, as we have some guys who are cross-trained. And one of the things we do, we respond to accidents, vehicular accidents. And sometimes we have what you call, I won't call it an accident, more or less a collision, because there's only one vehicle involved now, which collide with a power pole that belongs to SKelec. So my question now to Colin is, how has this type of accident affected SKelec? How is it affecting you now, and how has it affected you in the past?
Great question, Ramel. First of all, thank you on behalf of SKelec for once again allowing us to partner with the Fire and Rescue Service. Thank you, GQ.
You're welcome.
ZIZ for having us again this morning. Vehicle collisions. They impact us. Vehicle collisions with electricity poles, but also vehicle collisions even with homes and buildings and other infrastructure impact us greatly. And it's another area where fire and rescue service and SKelec has to coordinate and cooperate to protect life, protect property, and allow us to provide the services we provide to the community. So let us take the instance you're speaking of, vehicle accident. It may or may not immediately result in loss of power. The pole may or may not fall. Where the pole falls, that is a high priority response for us because there's a likelihood of live electrical wires in the road. As you said, Fire and Rescue Service is an assisting agency, and almost everything everyone else does, they call fire and rescue. I think that might be the rescue part, not necessarily the fire part. So in our response, we learned there's a downline. In some instances, our systems automatically de-energize the area. In some instances...
Oh, really? Automatically?
Yes, automatically.
Wow.
Automatically sometimes, automatically.
Wow.
De-energize the areas. In some instances, we have to go out and de-energize ourselves. In any instances, we're going to respond in person. While we are dispatching our team, we're going to call and alert Fire and Rescue Service, and we'll call and alert the police service. So those are the first responders that we go into battle with, shoulder to shoulder, arms in arms, so to speak. Okay. Depending on the circumstance, EMS will be there shortly, either at the bidding of rescue service or the police. In terms of hazards now, so the most direct hazard there, of course, is electrocution. We always are mindful. Last program we spoke about briefly electrical safety in the home. And generally indoors. So now we're going to speak to electrical hazards outdoors. And one of those is our electrical lines, whether they're up in the air or whether they're down on the ground after a vehicle accident or some other incident. Another common one is persons cutting trees, dropping limbs and branches and trees onto lines, and they drop on the ground. Same exact response.
Okay.
That depending on the severity and the area, we're going to alert Fire and Rescue Service. There might be somebody injured. They might have got electrocuted in the tree on a roof. Without presuming what exactly the situation was. Someone was cutting a branch, someone was on a roof, interacting with a line on the ground. We're going to respond and we're going to inform the Fire and Rescue Service so they can respond as well.
Right. Go ahead.
Yes. So, as we have seen, and we have responded to quite a few accidents as it relates to poles. I see pole just cut there. How did a vehicle cut that pole out the ground? Completely. And what happens sometimes, we have had responses, the power lines fall, the spark, you have a bush fire now. Right? So that too is one of the reasons, depending on the area, is one of the reasons why we have to respond as well, because there's a potential for fire to ignite. Because I can remember vividly a fire in one of those streets across, I'm not familiar with all those names. There you have East Street, and it's one of those streets in between East and West Street.
Sebastian Street.
One of them streets. I can't remember the name, and I don't know, I can't remember the fire session where I'm supposed to know those names.
Yes.
I feel terrible not knowing the name. But anyway, I can't remember the name. And there we had a house fire. And there was a live wire on the ground. And that was spitting out crazy electricity.
Wow.
Crazy electricity. Which is why once we hear house fire is SKelec. House fire SKelec. It could be a shock. Once current attached, SKelec, we don't waste any time. So at least, depending on where the fire is, we know, okay, well, SKelec have enough time to at least reach shortly behind us or maybe even before us, depending on where the emergency might be at the time. So, again, that's another, as you mentioned, that's another area where we rub shoulder to shoulder. And you mentioned we spoke about electricity and safety in the home. Now, how do, especially during the holidays, because we have had maybe 1 or 2 instances where electrocution is involved, what would you recommend for, those child? Even my daughter, and I've seen her do it maybe once or twice, attempt to push.
Something in the
in
socket.
most cases, it's a pencil.
Yeah.
And pencil is body won't conduct electricity, but the lead is inside, and lead conducts electricity, right? Okay. And so, what do you recommend for those electrical sockets inside? You have the ones outside that has the covers for weather. What would you recommend for sockets on the inside and so for protection against electrocution, especially in the case of children?
Well, they're similar, you would call tamper-proof electrical sockets, or child-proof, more commonly referred to for inside. So whereas those outside, typically the cover is for protection from moisture, which is another hazard with electricity that could lead to fire. Inside now, you want to avoid putting anything into an electrical receptacle that's not supposed to go in there, whether it's a bulb receptacle, whether it's an outlet plug. Nothing should go in there except what is designed and intended to go in there. So even when you talk about child-proofing your electrical in your home, also pet-proofing. Persons have pets at home that like to gnaw and bite on wires. That will cause shorts. Even we're all aware, kids learn quickly and they're going to mimic what they see. So if they've seen you unplug something from the outlet, they will now follow and imitate.
Yeah.
They won't hold the plug securely by its head. They're going to take the wire, yank it, pull it, maybe leave it half dislodged, maybe damage the wire in the process. So these are all considerations in terms of electrical safety, electrical/fire safety, and the aspect of fireproofing and electrical proofing your home according to if you have children, you have pets, and general electrical safety.
You know what I'm amazed with? And by the way, the lines are open, 465-2555. I'll ask you gentlemen to put on your headphones, just in case anyone else has a question. You guys make this thing so nonchalant, man. Like, it's so easy. I mean, I know it's serious, but it's just how the conversation is going to be, Before, if there's a wire down, we go, we report, if there's a accident where, there's sparks and, you're going. But obviously, you guys have safety procedures in place for handling these things. So one of the things that jumped out at me, though, is how quickly you guys resolve the electricity when a pole is cut because of an accident. Is that automatic too, or that's something you go on site to assess?
So, to a degree, it's automatic, particularly in disconnecting the power.
Okay.
You want that done as quickly as possible, not only for the immediate safety of the site, the situation, the incident, but also to allow the other responders to respond as quickly as possible.
Okay.
So if fire service is on the scene and fire service can't start their response because, as Rommel said, there's a sparking wire on the ground, fire service at that point might not be fighting the fire. They might just be keeping crowd control, keeping other persons at bay, both from the electricity and the fire hazard. So our speed of response is critical to enabling fire service, EMS, the police, and other responders from also responding. So we're mindful of that. Now, as far as the restoration, there are many layers that combine, many groups, many activities and efforts to combine. So not everyone may get their power back as quickly as you, GQ. You might be fortunate, just depending on where the incident is and what it is.
Right.
Our systems are such that we can reroute, we can reconfigure to try to get as many people power back as quickly as possible, as safely as possible, and leave the smallest area necessary isolated to allow everyone to do what they need to do. So that's what you're seeing at work.
Okay. And the fact that you said that kind of highlight the fact that your system is so intricate that you can, and I've seen this before, you have in the same neighborhood, one side has electricity and the other side
does
doesn't.
not.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And this is in the vein of more flexibility. Electricity is part of our life, part of every moment of our life, working, awake, asleep. And because of the importance of that service, there's a continual development to let our systems be more responsive, more adaptable to provide that level of service.
All right. So you guys are on 24-hour shift then?
Some guys. Fortunately, I'm not.
And let's move along from that real quickly before somebody jump on the skates.
Yes. So
Over to you, Romel.
As I mentioned before, I was on a show this morning.
Yes.
Fortunately, it was with solid waste, and they was talking trash. And the topic was derelict vehicles and white goods. And one of the things for them was, how does derelict vehicle affect fire department, right? And it seems as though the derelict vehicle affects everybody.
Wow.
So how have you guys at SKelec have had any experience where a derelict vehicle would have either hindered or actually caused them not to be able to operate?
Too many times, too numerous to mention.
Wow.
So, and it's again, it's a multiple effects and multiple impacts. So in the first instance, we want clear access to all our infrastructure for maintenance and emergency response. That is our standard. So whereas you have a derelict vehicle or vehicles or even trash blocking access, it inhibits us from maintenance, whether this is brush maintenance, actually going up on the poles, fixing what needs to be fixed. And then with neglect of maintenance, that is when your emergencies come about now. That is when you have someone accidentally lighting a brush fire. If we had kept the vegetation low, there would be no opportunity for a brush fire. That is when something on the pole deteriorates, falls down. Now when we go, it's a much bigger production now. We have to call out heavy equipment, call physical planning, call police. Here what, we have an emergency, we're going to have to move some vehicles. It is what it is.
Wow.
And it escalates. Sometimes everyone is understanding and it
goes smoothly.
Transacts smoothly, pleasantly. Sometimes persons are not so understanding, and it's a continual effort reminding persons, interacting with the agencies. We need clear access to our infrastructure routinely, and especially in emergencies. So yes, Ramel, derelict vehicles affects us as well.
Okay. And one question I would ask, I've always wondered, I know this is not so much about fire now, but just so the public might know, because there might still be persons who may not know. Going back to the topic of the poles, and when they are damaged or when they are cut down by vehicles, what happens after that? Who is responsible for those poles? SKelec or the individual?
The individual who damages the pole is responsible. And let me make a point before we get into liability and responsibility. While we do not want persons colliding with the poles, the most desirable outcome when a collision occurs is that the pole gives way. So a person might say, well, reinforce the poles and make them stronger to withstand the impact. But the idea behind it is that if an individual in a vehicle collides with a pole, the pole gives way to lessen the risk of damage to the occupants of the vehicle.
Right.
So that is the idea behind it. We don't want reinforced steel columns out there that when there happens to be a collision, it's a tragedy.
Yes.
On every level. So that is the intention, that the poles give way to minimize the damage to the occupants of the vehicle.
Interesting.
That being said, the pole has given away now and it's on the ground.
Unfortunately.
We will assess damages both for the physical infrastructure and the impact to our customers, loss of supply, loss of revenue in many cases, and then we'll assess that to We would say to the driver or the responsible party. In most instances, the driver on the vehicle will be insured, and so it'll be a matter of passing on that as part of the cost of the accident to the
insurance.
To the insurance.
Okay. Okay. Understand. As we're on the topic of responsibility, it'll be remiss of me not to ask this question because it came up many times during this program. Well, on the morning show, I should say. People always call and say that you guys are not doing your work because they drive around the country and they would see shrubs and trees and branches hanging over lines, and you guys are not cutting it down. Who is responsible for doing so?
Depends on which tree and which shrub. So, in the first instance, trees, shrubs, what have you, on private property is the responsibility of the property owner. Let's make that clear. The first responsibility is the property owner to manage the property and keep our lines clear of vegetation. Now, if property owner neglects, then SKelec will take it upon itself to trim the vegetation, clear the lines, in some instances as far as remove the offending tree. While we don't typically do it, there is provision for charging the property owner the cost of that service, but we don't ever want it to escalate to that. We reach out to our customers, reach out to community as much as possible in your choice of where you plant trees, and in managing your property, try to keep our lines clear, our infrastructure clear. This is even so for vines and decorative plants that will climb up the pole.
Yes.
That being said, this is another area where safety, fire hazard, electrical hazard comes into play. Once the tree becomes entangled with the electrical wires, it's a big safety hazard. As recently as earlier this year, I believe someone in Jamaica was picking fruit and got electrocuted because there was wires passing through.
Wow.
Through the tree.
Wow.
So we caution, once the lines are in the tree, reach out to SKelec. And even if your purpose in going into a tree is not to clear the tree from lines. You're going into a tree or you're going up on heights for any purpose. Be aware of your surroundings. Look up at the lines. We recommend a person's height distance away from the lines. So I'm not as tall as you, GQ. So let's call it 6 feet.
Okay.
Stay 6 feet from the lines in the air at all times. So if you're on the roof changing galvanized and you're within 6 feet of the lines, give SKelec a call. We will coordinate with you, de-energize the lines. In some instances, we put PVC over the lines so you can do what you have to do. Plaster, change your fascia board, change your roofing to be safe. Be aware of the lines outside general electrical safety. Be aware of the lines in the air, and be aware of our lines on the ground as well.
You know what? I'd like to end on that note, gentlemen. We're a society and we're in this thing together. So no matter what you're doing, if you realize you don't know who to call, just look at the situation and make a call. If it's water, so look at the best person to call is water department. If it's electricity, best person to call is SKelec. If you don't understand, you can always call someone and you'll be guided. But from what I'm gathering from what you just said there, Colin, which is very, 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 very meaningful in my book, is pay attention. Pay very close attention. You might think to yourself, man, I don't know what I'm doing. And then...
The hazards are real. We haven't touched kite flying and balloons, releasing balloons, those shiny, what you call them, mylar balloons. Quite, if when you have the opportunity, you go Google mylar balloons in power lines, and you'll be. There was I won't recall which one, but there was a major outage, relatively major outage last year. The flash, the arc flash is what we call it, the explosion. persons could see the light from miles away. And if I was to tell you, that was caused by a balloon, a Valentine's balloon.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, it happened on Valentine's
Wow.
night. So there's still other aspects. Be aware of your surroundings. As electricity becomes more common, more infrastructure, and the cost and the impact of losing it becomes significant, awareness and proactiveness is very necessary.
Let's take this call. Oh, we lost a caller. You can always call back. We're wrapping up our program now. 465-2555. Ramel, back over to you.
Yes.
Sorry, stick up in. Let's take the call. Good morning. Hey, yes, my brother.
Yeah, I'm here. Good morning. Correction. I just heard you said if there is a problem, whether it's water or electricity, and you don't know who to call the office. But the best person to call is ZIZ. Straight up.
You're right. I'll direct them.
When you call ZIZ, you ain't hearing punching the person name that you know, or the extension, and all of that. And up to when the house on burn down, nobody pick up live yet. But once you call 465-2555, the message they got all over the world, and even when nobody be, they get the message. So always remember that. Everybody put ZZ number in all your head. Call ZZ. That's a sure answer you're going to get. Thank you very much.
Yes, boss. Yes.
Culture and his mini campaign. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning, man.
Can I please get the extension for at JNF where they do the PCR testing results?
Sorry, we don't mean to laugh. You're on a live program and someone just called and make reference to what you're doing. Call 465-2551 and they'll direct you from there. 551.
551?
Yeah, 2551.
465.
2551.
2551. Okay, thanks.
That's very, very timely. Right behind culture statement.
Just say.
You're going to get through.
All that is it.
You're going to get through. Gentlemen, let's wrap it up here. Colin, your last words.
Thank you once again for having us. I'd like to leave one last note. So we spoke generally about awareness and caution with overhead lines and fallen lines. As many persons know, many persons may not be aware, SKelec also has a significant amount of infrastructure underground. So when you're digging, also, before you dig, when you're contemplating digging, give SKelec a call at 465-2013 or 465-2000. Let us know what you're planning to do. We'll come out, survey the area. If there are lines in the area, point them out and show you where you can dig without incident and where you ought not to dig. So you can do that also safely. If you happen to damage a underground cable, significant cost, liability to the persons who damaged it, and it's also another significant hazard, damaging an underground high voltage cable to life, to property, to fire, and then Fire and Rescue Service and SKelec has to dance again.
Yeah.
Thank you again for having us.
Thank you.
Yes.
I know you're a customer.
Again, Colin, yes, just want to thank you for again coming and sharing with us. I would have learned a bit because I'm sure some point in my life I would have said that they need to strengthen the light poles too, so that they don't come down when a vehicle hit it. But that makes a lot of sense, and it reduces loss of life and what's not. So that's something I learned. And again, I want to appeal to the general public, and this show is not just about, it is about fire, yes, but we're showing you how firefighting is intertwined and is connected to all other agencies, and so it's a community effort. It's a community effort, and that's one of the things we ended on at the other show. It's a community effort. The whole thing is connected. It affects everybody. If you don't keep your property clean, there's a bush fire, there's a pole in the fire, the pole gets burned, it comes down, you don't have any current, somebody gets electrocuted, EMS is involved, so it's like a cycle. So we are asking persons to be responsible. And as Colin said, be aware of your surrounding, pay attention. And on the final note, stay fire safe, stay COVID safe. Have a blessed day.
Nice one. Good note, Tenor. Gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Thank you again, GQ.
And the Fire Department of St. Kitts and Nevis.
I am Woman Fire Officer Louise Clark from the St. Kitts Nevis Fire and Rescue Services with your safety tip for today. Keep items that can catch on fire at least 3 feet away from anything that gets hot, such as space heaters. Smoking materials can cause residential fire death. If you smoke, take precautions. Smoke outside, choose fire-safe cigarettes, never smoke in bed, when drowsy or medicated, or if anyone in the home is using oxygen.
This message was brought to you by ZIZ and the St. Kitts Nevis Fire Department.